a man-eating lion in the forests of Kaptai, and the moment when the strength of man and beast faced each other right before our eyes. Hi everyone, I'm Sharik, and you're watching ManEater Chronicles. Every Saturday at midnight 9 p.m., we bring you thrilling hunting adventures and terrifying stories of dangerous beasts. So get ready, because every story reveals a hidden truth of the jungle that you've never seen before. At that time, the Kaptai Dam was still under construction. I had come from Chittagong to Kaptai with a few close friends to see this massive project and enjoy a short trip. We were staying at the government rest house there. The rest house was built on top of a high hill from which the entire area could be seen clearly. In front of us lay the beautiful town of Kaptai, surrounded by lush green hills that stood like a natural fortress around it. When we looked down from the balcony of the rest house, we could see the Confrontation River winding like a giant snake as it flowed through the dense forest. Along its banks, there was constant activity, workers and engineers moving from place to place. The construction of the Kaptai Dam was in full swing. Massive bulldozers tore through the earth as they pushed forward, while dozens of workers and engineers were busy with their tasks. A few American engineers stood beneath colorful umbrellas, studying blueprints and giving instructions to the workers. It was around midday when we crossed the Confrontation River from the other side. Our jeep was loaded onto a ferry to reach Kaptai. After crossing the river, we drove straight toward the government rest house where we were supposed to stay. Passing through winding mountain roads, we finally reached our destination. For the first few days, my friends and I spent our time exploring the Kaptai Dam and the surrounding areas. Sometimes we took long walks along the riverbank, sometimes we wandered along the mountain paths, and sometimes we went near the under-construction dam to watch the ongoing work with great curiosity. This beautiful yet mysterious region had completely captivated us with its natural beauty and peaceful silence. We had no idea that this calm and quiet place would soon lead us into a terrifying and thrilling adventure.
The greatest feature of the government rest house was its elevated location. It had been built on top of a high hill from where the entire town of Kaptai and the surrounding area could be seen clearly. In the early morning, when the soft rays of the sun rose from behind the hills, the whole landscape looked like a breathtaking painting. Standing on the balcony of the rest house, I would often spend long moments gazing at the view spread out below. In front of me lay the small but beautiful town of Kaptai. Around it stood lush green hills, forming what looked like a natural wall. The thick clusters of trees covering those hills appeared as if nature itself had spread a green velvet blanket over them. Between those hills, the Confrontation River flowed like a long, winding snake. In some places, it widened and moved forward calmly, while in other places it struck against the curves of the hills and rushed ahead with a louder, restless current. Along the riverbanks stood rows of dense trees whose branches swayed gently with the wind. A short distance from the rest house, the construction of the Kaptai Dam was in full progress. The sound of work could be heard day and night. Massive bulldozers were leveling the ground, while dozens of trucks carried soil and stones from one place to another. The voices of workers, the roar of machines, and the instructions of engineers constantly echoed through the air. Some American engineers were also working on the project. They were often seen sitting beneath colorful umbrellas, spreading out their maps and carefully reviewing the progress of the construction. Around them, a large number of workers remained busy with their tasks. The entire scene was both astonishing and captivating at the same time. On one side there was the quiet beauty of nature, and on the other the tireless effort of humans building a magnificent project. Whenever I looked at this view, I felt a strange sense of joy and wonder rising within my heart. The construction of the Kaptai Dam was considered a massive project in those days. Whenever I walked down from the rest house toward the site where the dam was being built, the sight there left me amazed. Everywhere there were the sounds of machines, the movement of workers, and the constant bustle of construction activity. Huge bulldozers and excavation machines were continuously cutting into the earth. In some places, the soil of the hills was being cleared away, while in others, enormous rocks were being broken and piled to one side. Dozens of trucks remained busy all day transporting soil and stones. Their constant movement raised clouds of dust that hung in the air. A large number of laborers were engaged in hard work. Some were shoveling soil, some were breaking rocks, and others were carrying construction materials from one place to another. Their faces showed clear signs of exhaustion, yet their dedication and determination were truly admirable. Alongside these workers, several foreign engineers were also working at the site. Most of them were American engineers, often seen standing beneath colorful umbrellas, studying maps and supervising the work. They held blueprints and documents in their hands while giving instructions to the workers. Throughout the entire area, there was a strange sense of energy and movement. It felt as if everyone was working toward a single important goal. Whenever I stood on the banks of the Karnafuli River and watched this busy scene, I felt a deep sense of pride in human effort and determination. This dam was not just a construction project, it was destined to change the future of the entire region. Realizing this made the place even more fascinating and memorable for me.
The first 3 or 4 days of our stay in Kaptai passed in great excitement and activity. My friends and I would leave the rest house early in the morning and spend the entire day exploring the Kaptai Dam and the surrounding areas. Sometimes we took long walks along the banks of the Karnafuli River. Sometimes we went near the under-construction dam to observe the work, and sometimes we wandered along the mountain paths, enjoying the breathtaking natural scenery. In the evening, we would all return to the rest house. After dinner, we would sit together for a long time, talking about the day's experiences and making plans for the next day. During those few days, we had grown quite fond of Kaptai's beauty and its peaceful atmosphere. However, after a few days, my friends' holidays came to an end. They had to return to their respective duties, so they began preparing for their departure. When they left, they handed their jeep over to me and departed for Chittagong by steamer. After their departure, the atmosphere of the rest house suddenly felt quiet and deserted. The place where laughter and conversations once echoed was now filled with an unusual silence. But I decided not to let this solitude go to waste. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to explore the remote areas of Kaptai, the forests and the mountain villages. I was especially eager to visit the villages of the Chakma tribe and the Buddhist temples I had heard so much about. So, the very next day, I packed my rifle, binoculars, and other necessary gear, started the jeep, and set out to explore this mysterious and beautiful region. Little did I know that this very journey would soon lead me into a dangerous and thrilling adventure.
After my friends returned, I began regularly exploring the forests of Kaptai and the banks of the Karnafuli River. For nearly a week, I would take my jeep out every morning and drive along the riverbanks, wandering far into the surrounding areas. The region was incredibly rich in natural beauty, dense forests in some places, lush green hills in others, and quiet open fields stretching along the river. The atmosphere of the jungle was peaceful and captivating. Colorful birds chirped from the branches of tall trees, while gentle breezes rustled the leaves, creating a soft whispering sound. As I traveled along these paths, it often felt as though I had stepped into another world, far away from the noise and chaos of human life. Occasionally, I also found opportunities to hunt. Once or twice I spotted sambar deer. With careful aim, I managed to hunt them. After the hunt, I would dress the deer and load it onto the jeep, returning to the rest house by evening. The cook there would take it and prepare the meat for our meals. During those days, my life had become very simple, yet deeply fascinating. Setting out for the jungle early in the morning, spending the entire day roaming along the riverbanks and mountain trails, and returning to the rest house in the evening had become my daily routine. While wandering through those silent forests, I often felt that many secrets were hidden behind the calm surroundings. Sometimes I would hear the faint sound of an animal moving behind the trees, and sometimes it seemed as if a shadow shifted quietly within the dense bushes. At that time, I had no idea that these very forests would soon bring me face to face with a terrifying beast whose presence had already spread fear throughout the entire region. One day, while I was driving my jeep along the inner trails of the jungle as usual, I suddenly came face to face with a powerful wild animal. It was a gar, which some people also refer to as a wild bull or wild buffalo. Its body was unusually large and muscular. Its shoulders were high, its chest broad, and the muscles on its glossy black body were clearly visible. It suddenly stepped out from behind a cluster of bushes and stood right in front of me. At first, I thought it would move aside after a few moments and disappear back into the forest, but that did not happen. Instead, it kept stepping in front of the jeep and stopping there, standing proudly with its chest thrust forward. There was a strange sense of confidence and pride in its posture, as if it had complete faith in its own strength. I could have easily fired a shot at it because my rifle was ready, but for some reason, seeing its magnificent size and impressive form, I did not feel like killing it. I decided to let it go. However, the animal did not seem willing to let me pass so easily. Suddenly, in a burst of anger, it charged and rammed the back of my jeep with tremendous force. The powerful jolt nearly caused my hands to slip off the steering wheel, and the jeep tilted dangerously to one side. For a moment, I thought the vehicle might overturn. I quickly regained control and accelerated the jeep forward. I was certainly angry, but even then I did not fire at the wild animal. So I increased the speed of the jeep and within moments managed to drive out of that dangerous stretch of jungle. The incident made me clearly realize that in the wilderness, an unexpected danger can appear at any moment.
A few days later, I decided to visit the tribal villages located around Kaptai. I had been told that between Chandragona and Kaptai, across the Karnafuli River, there was a small village inhabited by the Chakma tribe. Hearing about this village made me eager to see it for myself. One morning, I set out in that direction with my jeep. After traveling some distance along the road, I reached the bank of the river. It was not possible to drive the vehicle any farther from there, so I parked my jeep by the roadside. Near the riverbank, a small boat was tied up. With the help of the boatman, I crossed the Karnafuli River. The river flowed quietly, shaded by dense trees growing along its banks. The boat slowly cut through the calm water, and within a few minutes we reached the other side. After crossing the river, I began walking toward the village. I carried only the necessary equipment. A rifle hung over my shoulder. A small knife was in my pocket. A thermos was in my hand, and a pair of binoculars hung around my neck. When I entered the village, the people there began to look at me with curiosity and surprise. I did not understand their language, and they were unfamiliar with mine, yet the curiosity on their faces was clearly visible. Slowly, I walked through the narrow paths of the village, observing everything around me. Small houses made of mud and bamboo, trees standing nearby, and children playing in the open clearly reflected the simple life of the village. At the end of one path, I noticed a large gate that opened into the courtyard of a Buddhist temple. Driven by curiosity, I walked toward that gate. Little did I know that beyond that doorway, I was about to come face to face with a terrifying reality. When I passed through the large gate and entered the courtyard of the Buddhist temple, the atmosphere there felt unusually tense and disturbing. Several monks had gathered in the courtyard, and fear and anxiety were clearly visible on their faces. Some were talking to each other rapidly, while others walked around in visible panic. As soon as I stepped into the courtyard, all eyes suddenly turned toward me. They stared at me with surprise and curiosity, and an immediate silence fell over the place. I had visited several Buddhist temples before and was familiar with their customs, so I quietly kept my rifle slung over my shoulder and, holding my thermos in my hand, walked toward the steps of the temple. I sat down there calmly, opened the thermos, and began to pour myself some tea. I had just raised the cup to take a sip when something in the corner of the veranda caught my attention. On the stone floor lay a human body, soaked in blood. The sight startled me, and I instantly stood up. I quickly stepped forward and approached the body. It was the corpse of a young monk. His body was wrapped in a saffron-colored robe, but most of it was stained with blood. His back was badly torn open, and there were deep wounds on his arms and neck. The condition of the wounds made it clear that a powerful beast had attacked him. It looked as if a large animal had torn into his flesh and attempted to drag him away. For a few moments, I stood there staring at the body in shock and disbelief. Then I lifted my head and looked at the monks standing around me, who were silently watching me. At that moment, I realized that somewhere nearby there was an extremely dangerous beast, one that had taken the life of this young monk. I was still looking at the blood-stained body with shock and sorrow. After a few moments, I began examining the wounded body carefully. From the nature of the injuries, I became certain that this attack had not been carried out by an ordinary animal, but by a large and powerful predator. I lifted my head and looked at the monks standing around me, trying to ask through gestures how the incident had happened. But everyone stood silent, as if they were deeply shaken by the tragedy. Just then, an elderly monk slowly approached me, leaning on a walking stick. His face showed signs of deep seriousness and exhaustion.
He stopped near me and said in clear English, "A tiger killed him." I looked at him in surprise and immediately asked, "A tiger? Where did a tiger come from here?" The old monk took a deep breath and replied in a calm voice, "There is a man-eating tiger roaming in this forest. Its tigress died some time ago. It is said that an American hunter shot and killed her. The tiger has a few small cubs. After the tigress died, there was no one left to hunt for them, so the tiger began attacking humans." He further explained that within the last month, this man-eating tiger had killed 6 people. Among them were 4 members of the Chakma tribe and 2 monks. Shaking his head sadly, the old monk added that many times the bodies were never even found because the tiger dragged them deep into the forest and devoured them along with its cubs. Hearing all this, a cold shiver ran through my body. I understood that this was no ordinary predator. It was a dangerous man-eating tiger, and its presence had already spread fear and terror throughout the entire region.
The elderly monk had told me everything he knew about the man-eating tiger, but neither he nor the villagers were capable of confronting such a dangerous beast. After hearing their story, I decided that if I was to hunt the tiger, I would need the help of the local young men. I asked one of the senior monks whether we could gather more information about the tiger and if any brave young men from the village could accompany us into the forest, but he replied clearly, "We cannot stand before a tiger for the sake of our lives, no matter how dangerous it may be." Hearing this, I suggested that if they could not help me directly, we should contact Chakma Chief Garuma. Chief Garuma was the most respected and powerful man in the village. I quickly went to meet him and explained the entire situation. Garuma listened to me carefully. Then, taking a few long puffs from his pipe, he said, "Very well, I will provide you with 10 brave young men. They are fearless and can go with you into the forest to face the tiger." Within a short time, following Garuma's order, several young men from the village gathered before me. They carried long spears, shields, and other traditional weapons. Determination and courage were clearly visible on their faces. I briefly instructed them to remain cautious in the forest and to pay close attention to the tiger's movements. After preparing our equipment, we all set out toward the jungle. That day, I realized that hunting a tiger required more than just weapons. It also demanded the cooperation and bravery of the local people. These young men were not only strong, but they were also familiar with the tiger's habits and the environment of the forest, which was extremely valuable for such a dangerous mission. Those preparations marked the beginning of a new and thrilling journey, one in which we would have to rely not only on human courage, but also face every hidden danger of the jungle.
Accompanied by the 10 brave young men provided by Chakma Chief Garuma, we set out toward the forest. This forest stretched between Kaptai and Chandragona, bordered by fields, shrubs, and mountain paths on all sides. Every step required caution, as the threat of the man-eating tiger was felt with every passing moment. We slowly advanced deeper into the forest. Small paw prints and drops of blood on the ground guided our way. These signs clearly indicated the presence of a large and powerful animal. The young men communicated quietly through hand signals, their faces showing both fear and intense focus. At some distance, we spotted bloodstains and signs of a recent kill.
I signaled the young men to climb the trees and carefully scan the dense underbrush. A few moments later, they signaled forward and indicated that the tiger's presence was nearby. It was likely close to its prey. Inside the forest, sunlight was limited, and the dense shade of the trees made parts of the path dim. Silence and tension hung in the air. The cries of birds and the rustling of bushes warned us of potential danger. I kept my rifle slung over my shoulder and remained alert at all times. The young men were ready with their spears and shields. All of us kept our eyes fixed on the ground and the undergrowth, prepared to spot the tiger at the first sign of movement. The journey was intensely thrilling and dangerous. At every step, we felt the man-eating tiger could be nearby, and we could come face to face with it at any moment. Remaining alert and maintaining coordination within the team was essential for the success of this mission.
At every step in the forest, we moved forward with extreme caution and alertness. Small paw prints and drops of blood on the ground guided our way. All the while, a constant awareness weighed on our hearts that the man-eating tiger was very near. After some distance, we reached a spot where fresh bloodstains covered the ground and broken branches marked the tiger's path. The young Chakma men stood like clockwork, alert with their spears and shields. I signaled them to move slightly forward and keep their eyes on the undergrowth. Every heartbeat raced with tension, yet they controlled their fear through courage and training. Silence blanketed the forest, but sudden cries of birds and the rustling of bushes warned us that danger was close. I held my rifle firmly on my shoulder, keeping watch over every movement. The moment was not only thrilling, but carried the unmistakable intensity of a hunt. After a few minutes of cautious advance, we reached a place where the tiger's large paw prints were deep and unmistakable in the soil. I signaled the young men to climb the trees so that any movement from the tiger could be spotted immediately. As we neared the tiger, a strange mix of fear and excitement filled the air, yet each young man held firm to his courage. We all knew that any moment could now prove decisive. The tiger's presence was not only a threat, but also demanded careful timing to make the hunt successful. Every eye, every ear, every movement was fixed on the tiger. This was the most thrilling and dangerous moment of the entire mission, a moment that would soon test both our bravery and our judgment.
In the forest, we moved forward slowly and cautiously, every step taken with alertness. Deep paw prints and fresh bloodstains on the ground indicated that the man-eating tiger was very close. The young men held their spears and shields at the ready, constantly prepared for any sudden danger. We reached a spot where the tiger's tracks were the most visible and fresh. I signaled the young men to climb the trees so that they could respond immediately to any movement. Everyone quietly and carefully took their positions. Silence enveloped the forest, but the sudden cries of birds and the rustling of bushes warned us that a threat was near. I rested my rifle on my shoulder and signaled the young men to keep their eyes on every possible movement of the tiger. Even before it appeared, the air was thick with tension and fear. At every step, we were acutely aware that the tiger's presence and its next move could turn toward us at any moment. The young Chakma men kept their eyes fixed on the ground, the undergrowth, and the branches above. We all knew that the tiger was not only powerful and dangerous, but also capable of unpredictable attacks because it was a man-eater. Silently, we waited, every sense focused. The moment was extremely thrilling. It was about to test all our courage and judgment. As we drew closer to the tiger, we had to watch every movement carefully and be ready to act at the perfect moment. Every breath, every glance was directed toward the tiger, because the time for both the hunt and the danger was near. This preparation was training us mentally and physically for the encounter, and with each passing moment, the intensity of this dangerous mission grew. We moved slowly and cautiously through the forest, every step taken with alertness. Deep paw prints and fresh bloodstains on the ground guided our path. The young men held their spears and shields in hand, ready for any sudden danger at a moment's notice. Suddenly, a powerful roar echoed from somewhere nearby, hinting that the tiger was hidden behind a bush or a tree. Despite their fear, the young men exchanged quiet signals with each other and secured their positions. I immediately rested my rifle on my shoulder and fixed my eyes in the direction of the roar. The forest's silence, combined with the tiger's roar, made the atmosphere even more intense. The rustling of trees and bushes, distant cries of birds, and the whispering of wind from afar warned us that the tiger was close and could appear at any moment. The young men cautiously advanced, keeping their eyes on the ground, the undergrowth, and the branches above, so they could react instantly to any movement. I signaled them that if the tiger came near, they were to use their spears and shields without hesitation. The moment was not only dangerous, but also filled us with the intense anticipation of a hunt. We all knew that the man-eating tiger was extremely powerful and capable of unpredictable attacks. Every breath, every movement was carried out with caution. The tiger's roar sent a shiver of fear and excitement through our hearts, yet the young men maintained their courage. This was the moment that told us the encounter with the tiger was imminent, and we had to remain mentally and physically ready at every second to face this dangerous predator successfully. The sudden presence of the tiger in the silent forest made the atmosphere even more intense. We all froze in place, moving cautiously, our eyes fixed on every movement of the tiger. The young men gripped their spears and shields tightly, ready at any moment to react instantly if the tiger attacked. After a few moments of silence, the tiger's growl seemed to come closer. I immediately rested my rifle on my shoulder and focused on its direction. The tiger's eyes moved steadily, watching us, and every muscle in its body was visibly tense and coiled. The young men signaled toward the tiger and began advancing cautiously. The tiger stepped forward with full power and pride. Its neck and shoulders were strong, muscles clearly defined, and an extraordinary strength radiated from every movement. Despite their fear, the young men held their ground, spears raised toward the approaching predator. I quickly assessed the tiger's movements and prepared to aim for a potential attack with my rifle. Suddenly, the tiger jerked backward and veered to one side, advancing along a new path. The movement caused a brief stir of unease among the young men, but I signaled them to stay calm and maintain their positions. For a few moments, the tiger moved slowly in front of us, each step deliberate, before suddenly preparing its body to launch an attack. The moment was incredibly tense and dangerous. We all knew that the tiger's immense strength and man-eating nature could turn this encounter deadly in an instant. The young men and I stood fully alert, every sense focused, because the time for a real confrontation with the tiger had finally come. In the dense silence of the forest, the tiger suddenly launched its first powerful attack using its massive body. It leaped from the ground straight toward us, its eyes flashing with fierce intensity and hunger. The young men immediately raised their spears and shields into defensive positions, but the tiger's speed was so great that the distance between us closed in moments. I quickly raised my rifle, aiming and ready to fire, but the tiger's sudden movement left very little time to shoot. Dust rose from the impact of its paws on the ground, briefly shaking the young men's confidence. I immediately signaled them to duck and keep their spears ready. Before the tiger could strike again, the young men adjusted their spears and shields at the correct angles, attempting to block its attacking leap. The tiger used its full strength, closing several steps toward us, but the young men held their ground, relying on their training and courage. The tiger's eyes burned with anger and hunger. It was hunting humans for its cubs. I pulled the trigger and fired the first shot, but due to the tiger's constant movement, I missed my target. The tiger jerked and tried to attack from the side, but the young men managed to partially block it with their shields and spears. The moment was extremely thrilling and dangerous. The tiger's first attacking leap made it clear that this man-eater could strike lethally at any second. We all maintained full focus, ready for the imminent threat at every moment. After the tiger's first attacking leap, a wave of fear and tension ran through the forest. The young men and I became fully alert. The tiger, with its massive body and man-eating nature, was ready to strike at any moment. The young men held their spears and shields tightly, eyes fixed on every movement of the predator. I took aim with my rifle again. This time, despite the tiger's constant movement, I waited for the right moment and carefully pulled the trigger. The bullet struck the tiger's eye, and its body shuddered to a halt. Blood dripped from its eye, and it froze in place for a few moments. The young men immediately gripped their shields and spears firmly to prevent the tiger from attacking again. The shot to its eye temporarily immobilized the tiger, but it did not diminish its strength or pride. It struggled to regain control, using all its power. The bravery and courage of the young men gave us confidence as well. They held their ground firmly despite the tiger's terrifying presence. Now, as we got closer, we had gained full control over the tiger's movements. I signaled the young men to stay cautious and avoid getting too close, as it was not completely safe yet. This moment was not only the decisive stage of hunting the tiger, but also a test of the young men's courage, training, and composure. Each one, without concern for their own safety, remained near the tiger, ready for the hunt and holding their positions carefully. This moment reassured us that confronting the tiger was now possible, and the success of the mission depended entirely on our courage and caution.
After the bullet struck the tiger's eye, it was temporarily immobilized, but I knew it wasn't completely finished yet. Its powerful body and man-eating nature demanded that we remain cautious. I signaled the young men to hold their positions and stay ready for anything. A few moments later, the tiger tried to move again. The young men gripped their spears and shields tightly, and together we decided to strike. I fired a second shot from my rifle, which hit the tiger's body and brought it down completely. The young men immediately positioned their shields and spears around it to prevent any further attack. Now the tiger was completely dead. Its body was covered in blood, and the young men leapt with joy and excitement. The terrifying and powerful presence of the tiger now lay lifeless on the ground. Yet, the memory of its strength and man-eating nature still lingered.
A few moments later, the tiger's cubs began to appear. 4 small cubs were happily leaping around their father. They were probably famished, anxiously waiting for their father's return. As I approached carefully, I noticed small pieces of human flesh scattered around them, remnants of their father's recent kills. The young men and I watched the cubs from a safe distance. This moment was not only a triumph in hunting the tiger, but also a stark reminder that in the forest, life and death continue in an endless cycle. The bravery of the young men and my careful planning had ensured our success in taking down this dangerous man-eater. After the final takedown of the tiger, an unusual calm settled over the forest. The tiger's powerful body lay on the ground, while the young men leapt and cheered in celebration of their bravery. I turned my gaze toward the tiger's cubs, who were playfully leaping around near their father. Though small, they were active and quick, constantly drawn toward the pieces of food left from their father's hunt. The cubs were clearly famished, their movements and noises echoing through the forest's silence. The young men advanced carefully to protect them, keeping a safe distance to avoid frightening the cubs. I instructed them to let the cubs remain near the hunt, but to maintain distance, because even these small lions could attack if threatened. I carefully examined the tiger's body and the traces of the hunt. Bloodstains on the ground, crushed marks on branches, and the cubs' restless activity painted a complete picture of this dangerous and thrilling expedition. Every moment reminded us of the harsh realities of the forest and the immense power of a man-eating tiger. The young men stood near the tiger, gripping their spears firmly. Their courage and composure not only reassured me, but also reminded them how essential it is to remain vigilant and cautious in the face of danger. The scene reflected the delicate balance between life and death in the wild. The tiger was defeated, the cubs were safe, and through our careful planning, bravery, and alertness, we had successfully confronted a dangerous man-eater. This moment was not only a victory in the hunt, but also a testament to the laws of the forest and the courage of humankind.
After the final takedown of the tiger, we all stood in the forest's silence for a moment, taking in the scene. The tiger's powerful body lay on the ground, while the young men leapt and cheered in celebration of their bravery. The tiger's cubs played near their father, leaping around and moving toward the pieces of food from their father's hunt. The sight was not only thrilling, but also a vivid reflection of the delicate balance between life and death in the forest. I instructed the young men to keep a safe distance from the cubs so they wouldn't get scared. We carefully examined the tiger's body and the signs of the hunt to be able to give the villagers a complete account later. The bloodstains on the ground, the crushed marks on branches, and the cubs' activity all proved that our careful planning and the young men's bravery had made it possible to successfully hunt this dangerous man-eater. After leaving the forest, we headed back to the village. The villagers were waiting for us, and when they saw the tiger and its cubs, their faces lit up with amazement and joy. Men, women, and children all praised our courage and welcomed us warmly. The young men recounted the story of the hunt, and the village erupted into celebration. This expedition was not just a successful hunt of a dangerous man-eating tiger, it was a clear example of the courage, training, and resolve of these young men. The tiger's hunt and the safe handling of the cubs proved that with careful planning, bravery, and vigilance, even the deadliest predators could be confronted. That day, the villagers recognized our courage, and the event became unforgettable. So, friends, this was the thrilling story of the man-eating tiger of Kaptai. The reality of the forest and the power of wild predators never cease to amaze us. If you enjoyed this adventure, stay tuned for more dangerous hunts and thrilling tales from the wild. Like the video, comment and tell us how you liked this story, and subscribe to ManEater Chronicles so that every Saturday at midnight 9 p.m. you can catch new and thrilling stories.